Welcome to Titan HST's Business Continuity Today, hosted by Todd DeVoe, where planning meets reality.
Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are at in this fine land. And my name is Todd DeVoe, and I am the host of Business Continuity Today and Director of Emergency Management at Titan HST. I also teach, and I love learning new things. And when I learn them, I love to share them with everybody. And today, we're coming into a conversation about a 7.8 earthquake that struck Turkey. And if you have been paying attention to the news, you've seen devastating images of collapsed buildings and people that are now living on the street in some winter weather over there in Turkey. Help is on its way via international aid is coming, and international disaster responders are headed over to Turkey to help dig through. One of the things that I've been reading and really take a deep look at is the amount of damage and the images that are there that are just, it's amazing to see like how these buildings are collapsing. And the crazy part about this is the amount of the size of, and the amount too for that matter, but the size of the aftershocks that are happening. And there was a 7.5. Now they're not sure, they haven't called it an aftershock, but there may be an additional earthquake that was caused by this earthquake. It's on the same fault line. So I have not been able to find the official definition of whether they're called an aftershock or an additional earthquake. But they had the 7.8 and then back to back with the 7.5, just a few miles away, relatively speaking, with the epicenter. So it's going to be months, possibly years of these aftershocks occurring in Turkey and in that area. And so the widespread, if you think about this 7.8 earthquake, it was so widespread that it was felt as far away as Israel, and was felt into Eastern Europe as well. So other areas not as damaged necessarily, but there was video in Beirut of the earthquake knocking items off the grocery market shelf, and yeah, it was pretty significant. Obviously, for the other areas as well, but obviously the damage, the majority of the damage, the majority of the deaths are in Turkey and in Syria. The building structures that are there aren't to the code that you'd see American, and even so much so Chile has some really strict building codes. So when these large earthquakes occur, the damage isn't as severe. But not saying that if we had that 7.8 on a San Andreas fault, for instance, would we be having similar damage? Well, we would be having damage for sure, right? And I think we'd be talking about this just like we are about Turkey going on for a long period of time, whether it's months and years for aftershocks and causing, again, damage. This brings me to the book, the big one, by Dr. Lucy Jones. And reading that book, she goes into what does this mean when you have this large-scale earthquake, specifically, and I could talk about it in context to California, but we can overlay that into what's happening in Turkey. And so in California, they're talking about the fact that the Los Angeles Basin, which is Orange County, Los Angeles, in the Inland Empire to an extent, this whole area here would be without water, any water, for at least 6 months. Drinking water, firefighting water, any kind of water, the pipelines would just be that damaged. Electricity would be down, obviously, for I don't know how long, I forget the amount of time, but for an extended period of time, into months, possibly even years, for the putting the poles back up and running electrical lines again. So we're seeing the same issues here over in Turkey, where water, food, electricity is now scarce and or non-existent. And so now this is turning in from a rescue mission, where right now the last report I saw was 5,000 deaths have occurred in countless injuries. They didn't even report the injury number because there's so many. So 5,000 deaths as of this morning. I'm sure that number is going to go up. So we're moving from this rescue portion of the earthquake into really a truly humanitarian issue with people not having homes. So we're going to see the concept again of disaster migrants moving from the area where they can't live because there's no infrastructure for them to live to other areas of the world that can support them and to bring them into safe living conditions. Now, whether they are going to be mostly going into Europe or into the Middle East or here in the Western states such as the United States or Australia or England, or I guess England, Europe, those concepts. So what happens with the hundreds of thousands of people that are trying to survive through this, and what do we do with them, and how do we help them? And that's the question that we have to have. So why are we talking about this here, on business continuity? Well, again, we are a global economy, a global people now, all right? Even though, we have the sovereignty of each states and each country. But we realistically we're globally. And so there may be organizations that are listening today that have friends, family, and colleagues that are impacted by this particular disaster, and whether they're here in the States or wherever they're working, they're impacted by this disaster. So we have to think about how do we react to an event like this, even if you're located here in the United States. How do we react to a disaster that impacts our organization like this? And my first issue isn't the infrastructure that we have to deal with, right? So whether your business is up and running, let's talk about that. It's the social impact of this disaster. So we're seeing the images on TV, and we're seeing the images of the people who are impacted about it in the news, and so they're vicariously speaking. We are already impacted socially here in the areas that aren't impacted, right? So by the actual disaster. So people in Australia, New Zealand, the United States, the rest of Europe, the rest of the continent that have not been impacted are seeing those impacts. And so how do you deal with people at your office that are, again, concerned about this? And what are you doing to help them through the process of caring for other humans across the globe? The United States and other countries are already sending financial aid. The United States is sending, and I'm sure other parts of the world are sending firefighters and rescuers to help with the rescue. Now, we've seen the globe respond to other disasters, to the Japanese tsunami, to the triple threat there in Japan, to the Christmas or the Boxers Day tsunami that hit Thailand and a lot of that area over in that place. We have the Nepal earthquake, the typhoon that struck the Philippines. So when these events do occur, a Haiti earthquake, when these events do occur where hundreds of thousands of people are impacted and the globe comes together. And I truly believe this is what humanity is about, is helping our global neighbors. And as an organization, are you prepared to help your global partners? Are you prepared to help people along in your community when a disaster strikes? We tend to do business inside our geolocation, and we tend to want to help those that are impacted right by us, which is what we should do. And when we're looking at preparing for that large scale earthquake that could occur here in the United States or globally, are you ready to help your community to recover and to be resilient and to thrive after such a disaster? And those are some of the plans that you should be looking at doing. I don't know how long this is going to impact the Turkey and Syria and the Middle East as far as time wise, decades, years. The recovery, from earthquakes here in the United States and California, northwards, for instance, I mean, there's still areas that haven't been rebuilt from that earthquake. So it could take for a long time for that recovery to occur. So our hearts and our prayers are with the people that are impacted by this earthquake in Turkey and Syria and the rest of that region. I know that just everybody hold on because aid is getting there. Those that have survived and that are looking for help is on its way. For those who have passed, it's a terrible tragedy, and all I can say is that the feelings and our emotions here in the United States, for the majority of us, are sympathetic and empathetic with what's going on. And again, our thoughts and prayers are with those families that have lost during this time. I want to thank you all for spending your morning with me, just a little time. But just remember that everything that's going on around, hug your family, and I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Hey, remember, if you are looking for more information regarding Titan HST, please visit titanhst.com. And one of the features that I think is pretty exciting with Titan HST is the ability to do geolocation of the individual, and they are able to, during a disaster, and they have their phone and it's working, and they're able to push a safe or not safe if they need help, and you are able to locate your employees and your team so you can send the proper aid to them when they need. So take a look at it. It's really kind of cool. And if you go to titanhst.com, book a demo, and you tell them that you heard about us here at Business Continuity Today, we'll give you a 30-day free trial of the software. So until next time, everybody, please stay safe and stay hydrated.